But this book, really, for me, it's a reminder that if you focus on just the bad stuff, that's all you're ever going to see. But if you focus on the good stuff and even search for the good stuff, that's all you'll ever see. Welcome, friends. This is Kalina.
This is Tapis
from Eat, Read, Sleep, and we are so excited today to bring you one of our favorite books, an international bestseller by the author Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist.
Yes, this book is world-renowned. Again, it's international bestseller. It's one of the more influential books. I know the late, great Kobe Bryant referenced as one of books that he really loved. And even now, Madonna, Pharrell, this book has influenced them a lot in their lives.
I'll make a sports reference. LeBron James also likes
LeBron
this,
James
yes.
too, yes. Very well known. I know I read it a long time ago, didn't quite get the message, but rereading it now for you guys, amazing book.
Agree. I've read this book a couple of times too, and every time it's a brand new message. So we are excited to discuss this with you today. If you've read the book, we're excited to talk with you about this book. If you have not read this book, we're going to tell you, spoiler alert, we're going to give away the ending. So if you want to be adventurous, come on this journey with us and learn about the book, and we'll give you all the details.
Yes. To quickly summarize the book, it's around personal calling, a personal legend, a purpose, right? So the book is about a boy named Santiago, and he's set on this journey to find meaning and find this treasure that he's looking for. He gets some sort of guidance from the king of Salem and this gypsy woman, and so he sets out. The universe continuously challenges throughout the book, and we do a good job of summarizing for you guys in our summary as well. He gets challenged along the way. At the end of the day, he finds out the treasure, the meaning he's looking for is right where he started.
Ooh.
Yes. Absolutely amazing book. I know this book actually goes over 4 obstacles that are important to kind of, give you guys a good overall meaning behind it. So what are the 4 obstacles, Kalina?
Yes, so I think this is really great because for the 10th year anniversary of this book, Paulo went back and rewrote this intro. And I actually think this intro has a significant importance of the book. Yes. And he goes through our purpose and our calling, and that's like our only obligation in life. This is what we need to achieve. But the problem is there's 4 obstacles that always get in our way. And the obstacles are, the first one is everything is impossible. Ever since we're a kid, we've been told you can't do this, you can't do that, everything's impossible. And we take that with us for our lives until we grow up to be adults. And then that layers on with other negativities and other thoughts like prejudice and fear and guilt. The second one is love. Surprisingly, love holds us back because he says that sometimes we love others more than we love ourselves. And so we give up our hopes and dreams to stay around so that we don't disappoint others or leave them behind. The third one is fear of defeats and obstacles. So challenges that get in our way. And then the last is fear of realizing that we actually get to have our dream. As
you guys are reading the book, think of these 4 obstacles. You will see examples of this throughout the book. And again, challenge yourselves in your lives. What are some of the obstacles that you face on your own path and your own journey? Because there are things that I know when I was reading it, I was like, wow, this is something that I struggle with continuously this day. So continue to look at that as well. Let's go into the first part of the book. I do want to talk about the gypsy and the old man. Yes. So this was kind of in the beginning, right? You're getting to know Santiago a little bit. You get to know what his thought processes are. He's a shepherd. He's going all across the country with his sheep. He has a book. He's a very simple person, right? Comes across a gypsy that says, you can find treasure in the pyramids. The catch is that you have to give me 1/10 of the treasure you find. And then after that, he also finds the king of Salem.
Yes, the old man.
The old man.
Yes.
And he has a very similar, he gives more guidance, but he also says he wants 1/10 of what he has now, which is funny because I thought the whole 1/10 part, it kind of correlated with what the gypsy was saying too. So pretty cool. But what did you think of that part?
I've been waiting to talk to you about this, T, because this old man it's made a lot of impact in my life. So what I found important about this old man is that he comes to Santiago out of nowhere and he starts pushing Santiago to go after his dreams, to do all of these things. And Santiago is like, why are you telling me all of this stuff? And the old man tells him, the greatest lie in life is that people feel like your fate's controlled and you have to give up on your dreams and it's not real. And Santiago's like, well, how does this relate to me? And the old man says, I'm here because you're about to give up on your dreams. And it gave me chills. Yeah. And the old man says, I appear to everyone when this happens. I come in any form or solution. It could be an answer to something. It could be diverting your path. It could be something. But the problem is people just don't pay attention.
Yes.
And that was just like, wow. One of my favorite quotes from this book that I repeat almost every single day is, when you really want to go after something, the universe conspires to help you get it. And this is what the old man says. He says, anything that you want, we'll help you get there. You just have to open your eyes and see what's around you.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about what the old man tells Santiago is that it made a huge imprint on his life. So a lot of times, you know, what I always think is, we're given signs, we're given signals, we're given omens in our lives. It's up to you to whether or not you want to accept them, right? Yes. So Santiago was in a place in his life where he was ready to accept it. Mm-hmm. He was ready to settle down. He met this beautiful girl that he remembered seeing a year ago. So he's excited towards, you know, meeting her, and then he was pretty much going to set with his life. And then the old man says, look at all these people around you. And you can see, he gives an example of a baker who the old man knew could have done more, but he settled into his life as a baker. Yeah. Then you see the candy man who, that's his purpose. He loves making candy. You can see the joy. And so Santiago was pinning it all together. He was seeing all these signals around him. And he's seeing all these examples around him. So that's what made him go, I should pursue my treasure. I should pursue what I need to find. So I love that, because that was really, really impactful for me.
Because we see it in our lives.
We do.
All the time, right? You look around and you see people who represent the baker or the candy stall man, and it just brings everything to life for us.
I'll give one of my examples. The reason why this book hit me a little bit differently this time around is because when I read this book the first time, this is about 10 years ago. I had just gotten out of college. I read it just for the sake of reading, because everyone says it's an amazing book. So I read it. I read the whole thing. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know what all this hippie stuff is, the language of the world, blah, blah, blah. But now when I'm reading it, it just resonates a lot more with it. And I think it's because I'm more ready to accept the message from this book. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, and as the old man says, you have to be open. And he is always around. He's always giving guidance to everybody. Mm-hmm. But it's who is open to understanding his
your
message,
omen.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's for me. When I was reading it, I'm like, yes, and I'm reading it. I was halfway through now. I was texting you. I was like, oh my God, this book is amazing. I can't believe I didn't get the first time. It was such a cool book. So
you guys, we read to each other a lot and we share a lot, but this book was the over the last week we've been like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you get to this yet? Oh my gosh, this. And it was just, it's funny. I've dog-eared the entire book here, highlighted, I've written notes, because it just, I agree, it's hitting us so differently. And I think it's, for me at least, it's a different part in my life. And I'm seeing what I'm honestly, I'm more available to the universe as well. I know that sounds kind of hippie, but I'm actively aware of what's going on and the signs and all of that. And this has just, it's been really, really amazing to go through it again. So I always recommend this book. However, I think the most important thing is to be able to not just read it once, but go through it multiple times and put it into action with your life.
And if you haven't read it for a while, reread it.
Yes.
It might be the time for you, just like it was for me. So
this is your sign. This is your omen, guys.
Yes, this is your omen.
Read this book.
So the next part that I wanted to go over on his journey was meeting the crystal merchant.
Yes.
So he meets the crystal merchant because he gets to Tangier in Africa, and he gets all of his gold and his wealth stolen. So he sold all of his sheep, goes out there on this path, he gets robbed, right, by somebody he thought he could trust. And then he ends up having to work for the crystal merchant for a year just to kind of get that money back so he can continue his journey.
Yeah. Tapas texted me at like 10:30 at night when he read this part. He's like, the crystal merchant part.
It was.
So tell me about this. Why is this part important to you?
So the crystal merchant kind of represents a lot of us. Unfortunately, maybe even most of us, right? I wouldn't generalize all of us, but most of us, right? He is somebody who said, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't want to do more. My dream, my treasure is to go to Mecca one day. But he's okay with just saying, that will just be a dream. I'm never going to get to that point. I don't want to get to that point. I want to keep it that way. He's just so happy with he's not happy, but he's just so accepting of his, he's content. He's accepting of his life as a crystal merchant. And when Santiago is working for him, he's like, hey, do you want to try this? Do you want to try putting up a stall outside? Maybe that'll get more customers in. Or you can start serving tea and use some of your crystal merchandise, and that will help give that impression to people, right? And what he said initially was no, because that's adding too much pressure on me. I don't want to do all the extra work. I'm happy with the way things are. And I think that's resonated with me because that's a lot of us in our lives.
We know a lot of people like that, right? Set in their ways. They're scared of change. They don't want to do anything different. It's a risk that's uncomfortable for them. So
what were your takeaways from the merchant?
Yeah, I think the last part of this. So he was set on the whole time, because you mentioned he got robbed before he started working for the merchant. So he's actually kind of bitter now. He lost everything, and now he's working for the merchant. His whole goal is, I'm going to make enough money, and I'm just going to go home and continue with my life and forget this silly dream, this treasure that I was going to go after. And then when he finally makes enough money, he still believes he's going to quit. And then he goes downstairs, talks to a merchant, and the merchant's like, the truth. Come on. You're not going to go home. You're going to follow your dreams. And he sits there and he realizes, I'm only 2 hours from home. I can get home. But instead of looking at it that way, he changed his outlook and he said, well, I'm also 2 hours closer to my treasure. And I just thought that was so cool because I wrote it down on here. It's not the distance or the time that you should look at, right? Because if you look at, the shorter path, then obviously it would be to go home. So it's not the length, but it's the progress that you're making towards something. And I think, to me, I need that as a daily reminder, because it's very easy to get trapped in what's the shortcut? What's the fastest way? Because patience is very hard to have when you want something.
The merchant, unfortunately, stayed. He said, you're going to follow your passion, you're going to follow your dream. I'm going to be here. I'm not going to Mecca. He could have gone,
broke
right?
My heart.
Because that's what Santiago was hoping, that, hey, we're both going to set out and you'll go towards Mecca. I'm going to go towards my pyramids. Yeah. And then he's saying, no, you go. I'm going to keep Mecca a dream. So unfortunately, he still couldn't make that impact on the merchant's life. I love to point out, because, again, a lot of people in our lives, we know who they are. Yeah. They will just say, this is the way it is. We're not going to change it.
So the one thing that the boy Santiago also says is he realizes that everyone's vision of their dream is different. Yeah, so how he wants to get to his dream is different from the merchant. The merchant's fine with just knowing it's there and it exists and that's it. So it made him think back, I'm glad I didn't tell the baker of the possibilities that he could have, because the baker probably would have been upset and pissed off, because the merchant was initially pretty upset too. It kind of made me think about shutting my mouth in real life. And sometimes I want to say things and I just have to realize that everyone's perspective is different. Everyone's dream is different. That goes back to the 4 agreements, our first book. So kind of cool how it all kind of ties together.
The cool thing about this is also Santiago had earned enough wealth.
Not enough, but double. He said he can go home and get even a bigger flock and actually get a house and everything.
Yeah, but even then he's like, I'm still going to continue my dream, right? It wasn't the money side of it. It was more about, I want to get to my dream. Yeah. Right? So now he sets off again and he's going towards the pyramids. He has to hop on a caravan where he meets the Englishman and eventually goes to the oasis. So let's talk about the Englishman first.
Okay.
What was the significance of the Englishman?
So this Englishman, he's the one that says, I'm going to go find this alchemist. There's this story about a 200-year-old alchemist that can turn lead into gold. So the Englishman's like, I'm going to go, I'm going to find this man, I'm going to turn lead into gold, and then I'm going to have the gold give me the answer to the language of the universe and to be able to seek the soul of the world. That was his personal legend that he was going after.
Along the way, there was some overlap between Santiago's treasure and the Englishman, right? Because they were both going the same path. They both wanted to get towards the pyramids. But this is where Santiago learns about the alchemist. And you can tell that this did kind of affect Santiago a little bit more. Unfortunately, the businessman, he was only in it to learn how to turn lead into gold. As you will find out later on, that's not the whole purpose of it. Yeah. So next part is Oasis and Fatima.
Ooh, the love of his life.
Yes. Whose part is better? Mine's way better, by the way.
Okay, for those that's listening, Tapas thinks I can't make a heart with my hands when I put them together. And so every time I do this, he laughs at me.
Show the camera, right?
That's a heart,
my heart is significantly better.
Anyway.
Sorry for our listeners. We're just throwing up air hearts, but Kalina's is slightly worse.
What's up? So we're with Fatima now. Yes. They're in this oasis, and they have to stay in the oasis for a couple of months because there's a tribal war going on. And so during this time, he falls in love with Fatima. And this is a critical part in his journey because he also learns to listen more to the omens around him. And what is interesting here is this is probably the second time, I believe, maybe third time during the book that he gives up on his dream because now he's fallen in love and he wants to stay here. He says, forget the treasure. I found my true treasure. It's love and I'm going to stay here.
The oasis is also where he finds the alchemist as well because he reads the signs from the hawk. But the alchemist says something very, very important to him, because Santiago was pretty much set on saying, I don't want to go. Here's some 3 things that really changed how he thought about Fatima. He still loves her, but there's something that he put into perspective.
Okay.
So he said, within 3 years, the boy will ignore and suppress the omens leading to his dream. Fatima will be unhappy, feeling she's a burden that got in his way of his quest for treasure. And then by the 4th year, the omens will abandon him because he stopped listening to them. And then for the rest of his life, he will not pursue his personal legend, and he'll give up on his dream.
Oh my gosh. That gives me chills, that part, when when they say that his omens will just give up on him and leave him forever.
Yes.
I feel like that's probably happened to a lot of people.
We know people who have sacrificed a lot for love. One thing that this book does an amazing job is that it's not just a book about love.
It's actually
a part
not.
of it, right?
Yeah.
It's a part of his life, right? He
Yes.
loves Fatima, but it's not the entirety of it. And I think a lot of people who read the book the first time, they're like, oh, it's a book about love. It's not about it. It's about everything else as well. What I love what the Alchemist says is that you're also going to affect her, because she's going to be your wife.
Becomes unhappy.
She becomes unhappy. She's going to feel bad that you gave up everything for her, and then you yourself later on, 4 years later, you will just say, "This is not where I want to be."
So the moral is he's just not following his heart. And when you
Yes.
don't follow your heart and you sit in this path that you settle in, it always comes up. He says that the alchemist tells him at the end of your life, you're going to realize that you gave up everything and you didn't follow your dreams, and now it's too late.
Yes.
And that just, it hurts right
Yeah,
here,
it does.
right? You're just like,
It does.
man, if that doesn't get you to go chase your dreams and do what it is that you want to do, I don't know what else will.
Yeah, and he uses a love for Fatima to fuel the entire journey, right? He says to himself, I'm going to keep going because Fatima is waiting for me. She's waiting for me to fulfill my dreams. So he's also using that as fuel to push him forward.
Yeah, the alchemist says that true love will never stand in your way. If it's true love will support you so that you can go after your dreams.
Yeah,
and if
amazing.
it's in your way, then it's really not true love at all. Yeah, and I like that because it does steer away from romance. This is probably the first storybook that we've done for Eat, Read, Sleep. And many storybooks, good ones, are usually love stories and happily ever afters. And this does not follow that line. This is about your own personal self and how you can be happy with or without love.
Next part of the book was around the desert and the 3 days to turn to wind. What did you find significant in that?
The manifestation. This was like, as I was reading it, it was a little confusing, right? Because he's like talking to the wind and the desert and the sun. And ultimately, he's able to realize and understand that he is one with the Almighty Maker. And if he believes enough, he can create miracles. He can make things happen. And he ended up doing that. He manifested himself into wind and proved that he understands the message of the universe.
That was a very powerful one because that's when you can see he's building everything together, right? He's
that symbolism of
right?
the desert storm.
Yes, yeah, he's coming all together, and that was a true test for him as well. And the alchemist also says, before he gets to that point where he has to turn into wind, another lesson was that his money's gone again. Right? They steal the money from him again.
This poor guy, he's lost his whole everything. Yeah. Like 3 times by now.
Yeah, and the alchemist says, what would you rather do, have your money or die? Like, what are you going to do with your money if you're dead? So that's why the alchemist says, hey, go ahead and take his money. Santiago's like, what the heck, man? That's all my money I worked so hard for. He's like, what's the outcome of it? You're probably going to die if you don't give it, right?
And what's the symbolism of that in real life too, right? It's like, so he says, if you die anyway, what's the point of your money? And I also saw it as, if your soul is dead anyway, what's the point of having money? That's almost like working and having money but not loving what you do.
Yes.
What's the point of it? Love what you do. Don't worry about the money. It will all work out.
The significance I got about the whole money thing as well was around, he lost money twice, and it still did not deter him on his path to happiness.
Each time, though, he actually got richer than before.
Yes. It was an amazing thing because how many of us also give up our dreams or hopes because of money, right? Oh, we need the money. No matter what happens, we need to get the money. And the book tells you, like, oh, you continue your path with or without money. What would you rather do? Be dead, right?
Yeah. What's the point? You're dead inside anyway, right?
One thing I wanted to talk about, the initial, I don't know why this specific part of the book really hit me, was when the alchemist and Santiago were going through a desert and they come across these 2 tribesmen. And they said, what do you have? And they take the money. They also start looting the alchemist. And the alchemist has his stone. He has all that stuff in there. And they're like, what is all this stuff? He's like, oh, this is the stone. And trying to explain what the what the importance of it is, and they just laughed at him like, "Oh, this is stupid. Like, this is nothing. Why are you even thinking about this?" I love the quote in there.
When you possess great treasures within you and try to tell others of them, seldom are you believed.
That was something that when I read this part again, I was like, oh my God, this was like the turning point for me, because a lot of times you're telling your dreams, you're telling what your visions are, your hopes, and sometimes people are just like, that's so stupid. Yeah. Really? What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. They'll laugh at you, but again, it's valuable to you. It's your important possession. Then it doesn't matter what happens. So I love that part, because that for me was a game changer.
Yeah. And I really like in the book this part when the alchemist starts telling these thieves what it is. You could feel the boy thinking, what are you doing? Why are you giving up all your secrets? Why are you telling everyone all of this? And when the alchemist tells him this quote, it also kind of clicked to me that like, you shouldn't hide and keep everything a secret. Like, speak your truth, speak your goals into the universe, and that's how you manifest things. And I'll tell you, in the past 2 years, I've been saying things out loud. I've been writing it down. I have a book that I put all of my quote, quote, bucket list items, things that I want to achieve in life. And it's crazy that once you put out into the universe, it actually happens.
Yes.
So say it and tell it. And no matter what people say, if they laugh at you, if they think it's dumb or silly, like, it doesn't matter. That's
the best thing is to keep that with you. At the same time, do express it to others, because you never know who you may even spark with that too.
Oh, right? That was the other part in the book. He says, right, when you become better, everyone around you become better.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that actually reminded me of the book 7 Habits, Stephen Covey, because one of the significance of that book that we really loved was that it's not just about self-help for you, but it's self-help for the rest of the world.
All right. So last part of the book I want to go over is the pyramids and the treasure he finds.
Okay.
What happens at the end?
Okay, so he gets to the pyramids. Finally, after all this journey, everything that he's lost and gained and learned, he gets to the pyramids and he starts digging. At the time that he digs, 2 thieves come up, beats him up, takes his gold again. This poor boy loses his money again. They think that he's hiding something. And in this moment, he realizes again what the alchemist told him, like, just, you know, tell people the truth and they're not going to believe you, because what's the point if they beat you to death anyway? What's the point of having this treasure? So he tells the 2 guys, hey, I'm here because I'm searching for a treasure that I realized in a dream. I have this recurring dream, and that's why I'm here digging this treasure. And they look at him. They're like, this guy doesn't know anything. He doesn't have anything. Let's just leave him alone. And he leaves. But one of the thieves come back and he say, hey, don't be a fool. I have had recurring dreams as well. I had a dream that in Spain, there is this treasure that's waiting for me in a ruined church underneath a sycamore tree. But I'm not dumb enough to cross a great desert to get there. And this is a pivotal part of the book, right? This is where the light bulbs come on and Santiago goes, oh my, I know where my treasure is. So because
it's where he started.
That ruined church, that sycamore tree, is actually his home.
I love the full circle in that book, and that's the journey that you need to take, right? In order to get to that, right? I know the alchemist mentions on there, in order to go from lead to gold, there are a lot of different processes that have to happen in order to become gold, right? That's what you're telling me. So like, same thing for him. He had to go through all these things in life from the beginning to the end to get to gold. Yeah. That's what
the alchemist also says that every element, everything in life has its own personal legend, and that's why it has to go through the process. So if you're trying to skip through the process to get to the end result, it's never going to happen. So we have to be patient and wait for our dream. And follow the path, right? You have to know that the journey is part of your personal legend.
Yes. Yeah. It's and that's why you have to savor and enjoy the journey, not just getting to the pyramids or getting to your final destination, right?
I think what we haven't touched on yet is how many times he's been tested throughout all of this, right? Every time he loses his money, every time he wants to give up, every time he wants to quit, each time an omen shows up and says, just keep going.
Yes.
And it's very easy to miss those omens in real life. It's very easy to just listen to the negative thoughts and not even look for the positive because you're in that rut. But this book, really, for me, it's a reminder that if you focus on just the bad stuff, that's all you're ever going to see. But if you focus on the good stuff and even search for the good stuff, that's all you'll ever see.
And the people he meets along the way, right? Every single person he's met had a huge impact on him, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a crystal merchant, the Englishman, Fatima, Alchemist, everybody that he meets they were necessary for his journey. So a lot of times we have to look at that as well.
So true in real life.
Yeah.
We're brought together and connected in a way that is purposeful behind it. And I think sometimes we brush off relationships, or we just don't even acknowledge a relationship because we don't see the value and importance of it yet. Yeah. Everyone that we come in contact with is meant for us for a reason. There was one that we didn't talk about, the Englishman, right? He meets on the caravan. He teaches him, and he says everything is an omen. There is no such thing as a coincidence,
right?
And everything links together.
This book, again, guys, absolutely phenomenal book. My last question for you, Kalina, is, what were your main takeaways?
Gosh, there's so many things in here.
It's hard to pinpoint one.
It's hard, but I'll go back. My favorite quote is, when you want something, the universe will conspire to help you get it. And that for me is saying you have to believe and go after your dream. Because if you don't believe, it's never going to happen. But if you believe and never go after it and look for it and see it, then it's also not going to happen. You have to be fully immersed in it. Be open to the universe. And I know it sounds kind of hippie frou-frou, but that's real life. We're miraculous beings, and we're here for a reason. And if we don't realize and understand that, we're just going to waste life away. And then once you die, you go back into the earth, and then what? So make your time here your personal legend and make it worth it.
I think the part that really affected me was around the crystal merchant, because I realized myself, I was in that same mindset. I just knew this is what I need to do. My job is all I have, and this is how my life is going to be. Then I started to think, well, let's just see, because my hope one day was to become a filmmaker, to do podcasts like this. And I just thought it was a distant dream. We're not going to ever get to it. I don't want to, that's for somebody else, for YouTubers, right? Then we started you and I started, videotaping some of these, and now I can see this vision happening.
Yeah.
If I had just stayed in my same path and just saying, I'm just going to continue my career, and I love my career, I'm going to continue doing it. If I had just stayed there, then I would never be able to fulfill my other personal legend that I want to find. So I think a lot of us also need to self-reflect as well, because I was the crystal merchant, and that's why I read that chapter so many times again, because I was just like, that's totally me. And I recognize so many people around me that are also there too. Yeah. And I do share my vision and my dreams with them now, because before I was just say, I wouldn't tell anybody I wanted to be a YouTuber, I want to be a podcaster. But now I tell them, like, hey,
what's been the impact? So as you're telling people this, what are you seeing and noticing?
I start to notice so many people love the courage, and they also start getting inspired by it too.
Isn't
I have so
amazing?
Many friends. Yeah, they're like, you inspired me to do this part. You inspired me to make my own channel. You inspired me. And I just love it. I didn't know I could do that myself. I know my friends really well, and I didn't know me just saying it to them was going to be something that they were like, or even seeing our videos and on our socials. Now they're just trying to see, wow, this is possible. I can do it.
There is a part in the book, you guys, where there's a story of a man who has two sons. One son is a poet, and one son is a military man. And when he dies, he learns that one of his sons' messages has carried on through centuries. And he's like, oh, my poet son, I want to know what the message was. And it actually turned out not to be his poet son. It turned out to be his military son, and it ended up he changed his life. He did all these things and had more impact along in the world. And it goes on to say that every single one of us has an impact more than we could ever imagine, and we may never even know what the impact is, but it's important that we know that we do make an impact. Yes. And that's why you telling me that's what it reminded me of. That's just, it makes me feel fulfilled. Like what we're doing here, sitting here, as we learn every day to be a little bit better, 1% better with eat, read, sleep, we're also helping those around us do what makes them happy and feel like it's okay to go after their dreams.
Such an impactful book. I know for sure for me, I want to reread this again in a couple months, just because I know I'll probably have more examples, more takeaways from this as well. So I can't wait for that.
Thank you guys for joining us today while we discuss The Alchemist, one of our favorite books. And we do recommend that you guys read the book. It's a very short read. We've got links below for you to grab your own copy if you don't already have it. And make sure you join back and see us next week for our upcoming books. Please make sure you hit subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Like this video if you do. Double like it if you don't. And we'll catch you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.